Good evening, viewers. Our guest for today is a senior director with a leading US based business research and consulting organization, bringing extensive expertise in strategic business research across diverse industries and functional domains. A prolific writer, columnist, poet, award winning speaker, and podcaster, she has been a prominent voice in literary festivals, book launches, and panel discussions. Her work has appeared in renowned national and international publications, including The Times of India, Statesman, and Women's Era. A recipient of the Orange Flower Award 2023 for short fiction, she has also conducted creative writing and public speaking workshops at leading institutions. She is the best selling author and award winning of 5 books and is represented by the Bookmakers Literary Agency. Viewers, please join me warmly in welcoming the inspiring Rashima Swaroop Verma. Hi, Rashima, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rashmi. Thank you so much. And let me just say it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be on your show today.
Thank you, thank you. So we'll just start with a very basic question that you are a creative writing coach and a podcaster and also a corporate professional. So how do these two dimensions inspire each other?
That's a very interesting question, Rashmi. I think what it really comes down to is, being able to identify and explore different facets to your personality. And I think that is true for every individual, every man, every woman. I think we all have multiple facets to our personalities. Writing is one aspect of my personality, and the other one is my corporate avatar, as you put it. So I started working when I was very young. In the corporate sector, I was a management trainee with a multinational company, and that's how my career really started. I was extremely young, so I was studying and working at the same time. And at that time, of course, I think I felt that I was taking on too much. But today, when I look back, I feel it's been such an amazing learning experience. So I definitely recommend that kind of path to everyone. Writing, of course, started even before I was in school when I wrote my first piece of, my first writing got published in the Times of India. It was a poem. And then, of course, later I wrote for several magazines and newspapers, took on the role of editor for the school magazine and continued that path. My principal, I remember, she specifically one day called me into her room and told me, never give up on your writing. It's what you're meant to do. So yeah, I mean, these two, I do feel that both of them have inspired each other because my corporate job has taught me, things like discipline and time management skills, which I've also applied to my writing process. My writing has been able to bring about creativity, which again is something that I love applying, when I'm doing projects or I'm sitting and brainstorming in a conference room with my team. I think the creativity part really comes in handy. So that's the kind of, exchange of ideas and exchange of facets that happen when you're doing two or more things.
Right. So tell me, like you've been working in diverse industries. So how has the corporate, inspired you, and also human connections? They've been like just more than a passion. And what has these research taught you?
Yeah, I have worked across diverse industry segments because I am in consulting, what we call business research and strategic consulting. So it is business to business research, which basically means that it's not consumer research. We work for multinational companies across a range of industry segments like pharmaceuticals and healthcare. Then we work across automotives, engineering, infrastructure, chemicals, specialty chemicals, IT, software. So there's so much that we do. And I am an MBA by profession. So for me, this is all these industries are a learning experience, and it has been over the years. I love sitting down if I'm doing a project in, say, pharmaceuticals, and I'm sitting with my pharma team. There's so much I learn from them from a technical point of view. So I'm sitting with, say, a gentleman who's got a D-Pharm degree, and we're talking very specific things, about a project that we're doing. And I think as somebody who is more of in a management role rather than a technical role, there is always an exchange of learning that happens between me and my colleagues. So you were talking about human relationships here. So I think at the end of the day, when you're working as a team, the ultimate goal is the same. And that is the kind of teamwork and team spirit that we try to apply to every project that we do. So, yeah, I think I just really love my job. I think it's a tremendous, it's a tremendous feeling to be able to add something to the global corporate community per se on an everyday basis. So that is, and it's not easy because for women, and I was telling somebody recently, I was on this other podcast and I was speaking to her, and I was telling her, I said, there is definitely a glass ceiling as far as corporate is concerned. If you see representation also, women, I think, represent less than 15% as far as management roles are concerned. So for me to, be able to say that I have spent more than 20 years and now at senior management levels, I think it is definitely a source of accomplishment for me. It makes me feel good.
Oh, nice. So, your writing spans historical fiction, columns, and you also do creative writing workshops. So, which of them do you feel is the closest to your heart? I mean, all definitely all will be, but which is little more closer to your heart?
Talking about from a genre point of view, what is
Yeah,
closer to my heart
yeah,
in terms of what I like to write?
right. Yeah.
Definitely love stories, romance. I am a romance writer. And I think there is this one thing that I truly believe in, and that is that love is the only thing that can make the world go round. And love in all its diverse forms. So you'll see, whether you're talking about contemporary love stories, like my first book, A Break in Love, was a contemporary love story. And then my second book was a historical, it was a non-fiction. But then again, at the core of that book was a beautiful love story, The Royal Scandal. The Mewar Conspiracy also, it's a love story between the princess and the Rajput warrior. Sleep Support Insanity, again, was a different kind of love. The love between a mother and a child. And No Dressing Please, sorry, I still call it No Dressing Please. That was the original title. Weight Wars,
Yeah.
is more about self love, a woman's feeling of self love and self worth. So, yeah, there is love at the core of all my books. But I feel at the end of the day, what I'm really, really passionate about is romance. So, it's what I love writing.
Okay. So, like you're a corporate personnel also. So, do you feel kabhi aapko your corporate experience has, I mean, kind of got into the writing journey? Have they inspired, or they have like the characters of your book,
Yes,
your
absolutely. Yeah,
corporate
I think,
experience? Do they
yeah,
come
I think
into your
all of
books?
us, yeah, I think writers always draw from their own experiences and, their own lives. There was an author who I really admired, that was Mary Higgins Clark, and she wrote a lot of books which were crime centric. And then if you read her resume, you will see that, she had experience in the legal field. So she was qualified in that area. And then again, you've seen that in so many cases. So some of my characters, particularly in the contemporary stories that I write, you will see that many of them are from the corporate world. There's also, Karan Chopra. That was my male protagonist in A Break in Love, my first book. His profession is exactly what I do. He's a management consultant. And the female protagonist, she is a writer. So you see how that amalgamation happens. So, I mean, I breathe this industry, the corporate sector. I'm constantly there. I'm breathing it. It's been a part of my life for more than 20 years. Conference rooms, in and out of them, seminars, trade shows, internal meetings, team meets. That has been my life. And that is a jargon I speak. So how can that not be a part of this? Of course, if the book I'm writing is completely a different time, era, space, then of course, it's a different kind of research that has to come in. But yeah, technically, and then I've learned so much through my corporate work also. Like I said, time management, discipline. I think that whole idea of team spirit, not never wanting to give up, all those ideals I have learned from my work in the corporate space.
Okay. So, Rashima, you've moderated a lot of, I've seen also you've moderated a lot of book launches and panel discussions. So, when you do these, what exactly makes a conversation very meaningful when you're on stage?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. I think it is always honesty, and if you're on stage and you're talking about something that you're passionate about, something that you believe in, I think then that is what really comes across to the listeners and to the audience. And it's the same with writing. If you're writing something that you honestly and truly believe in, that you're passionate about, then your readers will instantly relate with it. I remember when I was so I just published my first book had just come out, and my literary agent Suhail and I were talking about what project I would work on next. And he's actually the one who brought the story of the royal scandal to me. So, he spoke to me about it and he asked me if that was something I would want to work on. So I told him, I said, but it's a historical. And he told me, he said, but it's a love story. And how does it matter if it's a historical or a contemporary? You love writing romance, so this is completely the kind of thing you should be writing. And I agreed with him. And I remember when I started working on that book, when I started the research and the writing, I was absolutely immersed in that process because, like he said, it was something that was totally my kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you're passionate about doing something, I think that is what speaks volumes, whether you're on stage or whether you're sitting at your laptop and working.
Right. So, you've worked with national publications, international publications. So, any particular publication or any particular incident which has been very memorable to you?
So there have been many, Rashmi, because it's been so many years. I've written for the Times of India, I've written for Statesman, Indian Express, then many literary magazines. I think West Russell Review, California, there was a story I'd submitted to them, and this was, I think, during the pandemic. And that was very interesting because, they are their process is extremely stringent. Their editorial process is quite stringent. And, the editorial team is completely female. So you could say it's a magazine that has certain core values. The essence of that magazine has certain core values and that they believe in, and that is pretty much what they publish. So for me, it was, as a woman, I felt mighty proud when they accepted that story. And when the editor wrote to me and she said that, a very subtle message and so well delivered. And the story was called The Girlfriend. And it was a very interesting take on relationships, and they totally related with it. So I think that was definitely one. Another one was Women's Web, the entire period that I wrote for them. And then I think it wasn't so memorable when they shut down, because that was something I felt terrible about. You would remember, I think many of us wrote for Women's Web, and my first article there got published in the pandemic again. And it was such an outlet. What I loved about that magazine was that it was, I would call it fearless, and the editor also. I think she was somebody I, again, related with very well. Her basic ideals were so much on point, what we really need to convey today as messages, today's world, in today's day and age. So when that magazine shut down, it was an online magazine publication. I think a lot of us sat down and wept literally because we were so much a part of that. It was like a family, Women's Web. So that was an incident I can't forget.
Right. So, Rashima, you won the Orange Flower Award in 2023. So, how did you feel and how did it influence you personally and professionally?
Well, that was an amazing feeling, Rashmi, because there was so many submissions. Again, that was a Women's Web. It was powered by Women's Web. those
Right.
awards. So again, I'm not somebody who is particularly crazy about, putting in my work for awards and, sort of expecting them, also expecting to win per se. So it was definitely an amazing feeling when I got shortlisted, when my story, and I remember that submitting the story also was so last minute. I think my entry must have been one of the last ones, because I'm the kind of person who I'm always late, for anything that I'm doing, which is, again, something that I need to maybe learn. But yeah, I think it was one of the last entries, and maybe I had 2 days, 1 day or 2 days left remaining. I had submitted it in the short fiction category. And I knew that there were hundreds of entries, if not thousands, going in. So the shortlist, of course, was, I think, 10 stories in that category that were shortlisted. So when I made it to the shortlist, for me, that was also good enough. I was like, this is great also. So it doesn't matter if I win or I don't. And then the announcement was supposed to come on their website and on their social media handles. There was a time the next day that was allocated for announcements. So, and I didn't even look at it. And this friend of mine, she who also had, I think she had also won something, or she was the runner up in another category. She messaged me and she said so, and she took a screenshot and she said, "You won." So it was unbelievable. I was like, wow, this is really something, because like I told you, awards is not something that I have been particularly active, as far as applying my work for awards is concerned. So it's a great feeling. It was great.
Nice. So, आजकल it's a fast paced digital world. So how do you feel in this digital era writers can actually have authenticity in their writings and their voice?
Yeah, I think, technology, social media, digitization, all this is a double-edged sword. I always say it is. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. I mean, to this. So there are two sides to this coin. Today's writers, I think, well, there is pressure. Definitely, you've got to maintain your social media profiles. You have to keep posting. You've got to be active. You have to attend events, and you've got to be pretty much visible. But at the same time, I think we also have an advantage, because it's an amazing opportunity to be able to express your thoughts, to connect with the right people, to network. The online network, I think, is something that, if we learn how to do it, and we adapt well to that process, I think it can do wonders. So I think there is pressure, but you can use it to your advantage. Everything is now going online, and the thing is, Rashmi, our generation wasn't really born with that skill. You've got to understand that my son's generation, on the other hand, they are the digital generation, right? They learned how to handle these gadgets and how to handle apps and technology very early on. In fact, I think I still learn a lot of skills from him. So for us, it has taken a little longer. But again, I think the excitement of learning something new, the novelty of learning something new has been there. So, writers, just like other professionals across different industries, I think if we use technology and social media to our advantage, it can definitely give us a lot in return. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Right. So, Rashima, you're a podcaster, speaker, and also a very prolific author. So, which role do you relate to most, doing podcasts or writing?
Well, I think both, yeah, both. I
Okay.
think the podcast is something. So you know that I run the podcast in collaboration with India's leading literary agency, the Book Bakers, and we started this podcast. I think 2 years. It's been around 2 years, or maybe a little more. We are now fast approaching our 100th episode. So I'd like to also take this opportunity to, to extend a big thank you to Suhail, because he's shown so much faith and trust in me, that he has given me this platform. And the entire Bookbakers community, I think it's been absolutely wonderful. So I love that part. It's a weekly podcast, and I think it's extremely exciting. It has helped me to really, put myself out there. We have a lot of fun also. It's a fun filled podcast. It's a 20-minute, every episode is 20 minutes. So every week, I interview someone new from the author and the literary community, and I think it's one of the most popular podcasts on Instagram, if I may say so. We have a lot of viewership, so I love that. That is something I really love. And writing, of course, is where it all started. So that is pretty much the core of everything creative that I do. So, it's something that gives me a lot of happiness. If I don't write for a few days, I don't feel happy. Let me just put it this way: it's oxygen to me, it's therapy, it's my way of self expression, and it's who I am. I am defined by my writing.
Right. So nowadays we've seen more of women writers on the rise. So do you still feel that some challenges women writers still face today while writing their novels and their books?
The only challenge I think lies at home for everyone. It's
Mhm.
about how you have to manage your, so it's a personal struggle. And I think women face that across every profession. Why only writing? I think everywhere. In fact, writing, I think, is something that still gives you flexibility. You can do it from anywhere. But if you're in professions like corporate, in law, hospitality, there are so many I can think of, then the flexibility is really, it's not there. So you have to learn to multitask. You've got to learn to manage everything, because there is more pressure on women, societal pressure, familial pressure. All those pressures are there. And at the end of the day, if there is a responsibility at home that needs to be completed, then everybody looks at the woman. Things are changing, but not as fast as we'd like them to. And then again, those changes are mostly restricted to urban India. What about rural India? Women there are also working, so we've got to remember that. So, as far as writing is concerned, I think women have a lot of advantages. Yeah, look at the number of awards which are exclusively for women, or the women exclusive literature events, literature fests. So we have a lot of options, but like every industry, I think our struggles are the same. We have to struggle with time management. We have to struggle with the whole idea of being superwoman, being able to do everything. And I feel like telling everyone who expects that, hey, I have two hands, not 10 like the goddess Durga. So don't expect me to manage everything seamlessly. Yeah, so that is how I look at it.
Okay. So Rashima, you've written 5 books, right? So which of them was the most emotionally challenging for you to write, if I may ask so?
Hmm, I think the royal scandal was
Right.
emotionally, it was because the story itself is such an emotional story. You know what it's, I don't know if you've read it. It's a non-fiction from Indian history, and it's about a very beautiful Indian princess who fell in love with an officer of the East India Company. And it's a tragic love story. It's about how sometimes, when you fall in love, how difficult the path ahead can be. And there were moments in that, when I was actually writing it, because my process is such: if I'm writing something which is based on true events, I like to get all my facts on paper. And I do it the old fashioned way of actually maintaining a diary. I don't believe in technology when it comes to that. So I have an entire diary where my notes, I used to laboriously write notes. Every time I would do some research, I would then put it down in my diary. And there were times when I was doing the research and then trying to write a chapter based on something I'd found out, I would literally break down. It was impossible for me to connect with that kind of tragedy, with that kind of sacrifice, the level of sacrifice. I mean, it was just something that I found absolutely impossible emotionally to contain within myself, and then to come back to the real world, because that was the 18th century. So things were so different. Then to come back to the real world, and it would always take me an hour or two to really be able to step back into reality when I was in that, I would call it a trance like state almost. So I think the royal scandal.
Okay. So we all, being a writer, we all have writer's block. So how do you overcome that?
Uh, I don't know, Rashmi. There are so many different things. I'm a very moody person. I have mood swings, and I'm very moody. There are times I'm an extremely emotional person. So for me, writing again, because I have to maintain a very practical image. during my day job, because if you're working numbers, you're not doing number crunching, or you're looking at profit and loss, and you're trying to make a project profitable for your company, and you're constantly on that drive, I think then you have to become pragmatic, which is what I am in that industry. But writing is where I really let loose as far as my emotional side is concerned, and I have a very emotional side. So writer's block is something that really depresses me. Yeah, I mean, like I told you, I need to write, and I don't think I've had that problem so much, because whatever I'm going through, I write about it. So if I'm happy, you'll see something very joyous coming from my pen, and if I'm upset and I'm depressed, or I'm feeling, emotionally very, you could say, emotionally challenged, then again, very often it's poetry. So I'll often express my feelings in the form of a poem. That happens a lot. I don't publish a lot of poetry. A lot of it is very, very private. And a lot of it is handwritten also, not typed in, because that's how I like to express myself. So writer's block is not something I worry about. It is more to do, I think my writing is therapy, and I can't live without it. I have to write every day.
Right. So a lot of new writers are coming, and they a lot of times they have self doubt. So what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I think you choose to do this because somewhere you believed in yourself, right? You believed you were good enough. So when you know that you have something which needs to be explored, I think there should be no place for doubt or for misgivings. It is, I think everywhere it's competitive now. There are a lot of writers. Well, there are a lot of everyone. I think, everything, every industry is becoming a crowded space as I see it. So I think my advice, I'll basically give them three pieces of advice. One is to definitely keep believing in yourself. That self faith is very important. The second is to write something that you're passionate about. That is the only way your writing will come across as novel, unique, honest to its readers. And the third is you must find yourself a wonderful literary agent like Suhail Mathur. I think he really is, a godsend. He's somebody who makes dreams come true. So for authors, in the Indian literary industry, I think he's definitely someone who is amazing. So find yourself an agent like him.
So, of all the contemporary authors and poets, who has been the most inspiring for you?
There have been several. I think Mary Higgins Clark, she passed away a few years back, but and the genre was very different from what I write. She only wrote thrillers. I write mostly romance and slice of life books. But I think there was so much honesty in her, in the way and the characters, her women characters. There was always a central female character. Um, at the core of every story. And back in the day when she was doing this, because I would still call her contemporary, but still, that time wasn't what it is today. Could say she was still writing 10 years back, but there's been so much change. She had extremely strong women, yeah. They were independent, they were fierce, they were free thinking. So I think definitely Mary Higgins Clark. And yes, I think Danielle Steele also has been, she's been there, just looking at her as a human being also, as a woman. She's, how many books has she written? I've lost count. It really takes some amazing talent to be able to churn them out like that, book after book.
Right. So, tell me something of all the stories you've written. According to you, what makes a story really timeless?
Love is the most timeless emotion, Rashmi. So if there is love at the core of a story, I think that is what really makes it timeless for me.
Okay. And if you would like to describe your literary journey, what would it be?
Okay. There's a lot I can say. You want me to say this in a few words, in a few lines, or
Just
at
speak your
length?
heart out.
Okay. It's been wonderful. I haven't, I think I've had the privilege of being very blessed. I started young. I got a lot of support in school. My parents supported my dreams. My teachers in school supported my dreams. Like I told you, the journey started there. I was allowed, I think, to explore this facet of my personality to my heart's content when I was a student. And that really gave me the foundation to carry on. My grandfather was an author as well. He was actually a professor. He was teaching political science at Oxford University, and that was his subject. And he also authored several books on that subject. Some of his books were published by Oxford University Press back then. So I think it was also sort of carrying forward that legacy. But yeah, I started young. Even when I started working after I did my MBA, I took a break for a while because the corporate sector is quite demanding. But eventually, I would always come back to it. And I remember I had taken this longish break when I hadn't written anything for a while. And then, the Nirbhaya incident happened in
Yeah.
Delhi. And there was something that was choking inside me and I couldn't express it. I couldn't understand what it was. It was anger and rage and sadness and grief. And there was so much. And I couldn't sleep. Every time I would think about it, I think 2 or 3 nights, I just couldn't sleep. And then on the third or the fourth night, I remember I just woke up sometime at 4 o'clock in the morning, got out of bed, and I wrote this poem. Everything, pouring everything out. Sent it off to a literary publication called Indian Review, which they published later. But for me, it was an outlet and it was my way of expressing. So that is the day I realized that I cannot stop writing. I have to carry on. If I stop, then I am depriving myself of something that comes very naturally to me. And then I started writing my first book, A Break in Love. And I don't even remember how I finished it because I remember I was really at the peak of my career at that time. I was traveling constantly. I was working, I don't know how many hours a day. And I wrote that book on flights from Bombay to Delhi, Delhi to Bombay. I used to take this morning flight to Bombay and then come back at night. And I wrote that book on so many flights, in hotel rooms, at airports. And once it was over and finished, I was quite happy with it. Then, of course, I connected with Suhail at the Book Bakers. And it's been a wonderful journey since then. 5 books, and we're working on so many new concepts also now. So I would call my literary journey a very heartwarming journey that has made me very grateful. It has made me very grateful.
Right. So now we'll come to your latest, Weight Horse.
Sure.
Can you
I
tell
can.
us something about it? Like, how did the idea come to you? Why did you write that book?
Yeah. So, something that I did, which not a lot of people know, is that I was actually running the creative division of, a state-of-the-art health club in Delhi NCR with my husband a few years back. And I've also been passionate about fitness and health and wellness. So this was something that I really enjoyed. And during the course of that period, we came across a lot of very interesting people, with extremely unique goals, fitness goals. And what I realized is that each one of those people, they had a story to tell. There was a lot of humor. There was a lot of inspiration. There was this feeling of believing in yourself. There were moments of despair that they went through as well, because fitness and wellness is not an easy thing. So I think okay. And Rashmi, are you there? Because I can't see you.
Yeah. My
Okay.
laptop had just, yeah.
Okay. So I realized that these are stories that can inspire other people. And, fitness is something, again, like I said, I'm passionate about it. I believe we haven't spoken about it as much as we should. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity for everyone. So Weight Wars is definitely something that was a culmination of those experiences. All the people I met during that course, we lived their stories with them, yeah. We lived their battles with them. And these were inner battles that they were fighting. So it wasn't easy. But like I said, so much inspiration, so much motivation, feeling of triumph. I've done it. I've lost the 20 kgs I always wanted to lose. I am today able to do this yoga asana perfectly. Look at my flexibility. I'm able to walk And I'm talking about all different types of fitness. This is all different definitions of it. So that's how the idea of the story came to me. And then when I started writing it, I realized this can be a lot of fun. Yeah, there's so much humor there also. It helps you to laugh at yourself. It kind of gives you the ability to laugh at yourself, which is I think it's a very important dimension to everyone's personality. So the book is humorous, it is inspiring, it is a book about self worth, being able to identify and understand what self worth means to you. It is one woman's transformation and personal growth story. And I think there is so much more than just going to the gym or getting on a diet. It is about how all these things intertwine with other parts of your life, your relationships at work, your friendships, your family equations, your relationship with yourself. All that, it's an amalgamation of all that. So it's a book that I think everyone should read and will definitely enjoy reading.
Okay. So, Rashima, like I've known you personally also, and I've seen so many facets in your personality. You're a corporate diva, and you are a podcaster, you're a speaker, you're a writer. So, while balancing all these roles and homework, home front, do you ever feel that, okay, I don't want to do this? Or do you ever feel low? And how do you fight that?
I constantly, yeah, constantly. Like I told you, I'm a very moody person. I have mood swings. There are days when I feel exhausted. I don't want to get up in the morning because I have to wake up at usually at about 5:30. These days I'm getting up late because my son is at home and I'm writing at night. So I have. But yeah, I mean, there are days when you feel completely devoid of energy. You feel devoid of inspiration or motivation. You don't want to. It's been a long journey. I started working when I was very young. So for me, it's like there are times when I feel I've done enough. What am I doing now? I want to do other things. I want to travel. I want to do a cooking course. I want to learn how to perfect Mexican cooking. So there's a new goal also that forms every day. How do I handle this? I think I kind of look at it as a phase. So if I need to indulge myself, then I do that. If I need to take a break very badly, I'll give myself 4 or 5 days. I'm not going to push myself to the point where I start resenting what I'm doing. So whether that is a break from household responsibilities or whether it is a break from work in the office, I think if your mind and your body, they're telling you, then you need to do that for yourself. Otherwise, you'll just end up very bitter. So yeah, as long as it's not a complete change, I think short breaks everyone should take. And I set very short term goals for myself also.
Mhm.
I tell myself, okay, this week I'm going to do this. This week I will finish writing this chapter. That's the kind of goal I like to set for myself. Not that I'm going to finish this book in 3 months. That sometimes can become unattainable, and then it leads to disappointment when you're not able to deliver. So,
Right. So you are a corporate diva yourself. Have you ever thought of writing a book on corporate divas? Or
it's a very interesting idea. Women in corporate. But Rashmi, I actually write to get away from that. So
okay,
yeah, I do so much of that in the day that and like I told you, for me, romance is right on top when it comes to my creativity.
okay. And any like other idea you are getting right now to write your next book? Have you worked
Well,
on
I'm already
something?
in process. I am
Okay,
writing. Again, it's in the romance genre. What I'm doing, I've just almost finished, and I'm in the process of editing it. Then I will
okay,
send the manuscript to Suhail. And after this, of course, he and I have had conversations about what I need to work on next. So I think we are quite set for another 4 or 5 years with what I need to do. We have a good
okay,
5 year plan. Hopefully, I should be able to do it in time. you know
okay.
Set the time goal for myself and deliver
Right, right.
accordingly.
So I have read this book of yours, Sleep, Sanity, and Support.
Yeah,
So
sleep.
what inspired you to write that book?
Well, my son, yeah, I mean, it's a book
Oh,
on parenting and it's my own
yes.
personal journey of parenting him.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's a non-fiction and it is written in the first person also.
Yeah,
I
I've read
hope
it.
I hope he doesn't read it ever because now he's a teenager and I don't think he's going to like. a lot of
Okay.
what is written in there, but
Right.
it's a very heartfelt, it started as a
Emotional.
diary. Yeah, that book actually started as a diary. I was up at 3 a.m., 3:30 in the morning sometimes, for night feeds, we have to get up. So
Mm-hmm.
those were the moments when, you are the only one awake. And there's been an entire day of events as a new mother that you have experienced for the first time. So I started writing and penning those thoughts and those experiences in a diary for myself.
Okay.
And then one day I was just reading, was going over that diary. I realized, my God, this can make a book, yeah. I think this is something that most new moms and even new fathers would want to read. So that's how the book happened.
Okay. And I believe you travel a lot. So when you travel, do you find inspiration for your new books? And how does traveling shape you as a person?
Traveling is a very, very important thing for me. I just love getting on a plane and, I've just come back. I was in Italy for about 2 weeks.
Right.
And I think for me, travel, what it really does is it opens your mind to a lot and it makes you accept different ways of life, different kinds of people. It gives you that open mindedness, which is very important if you want to write about the world at large. And I truly believe that the world is one. There are too many things that are dividing us, but we need to unify because ultimately it is all humankind. We're all different kinds of people. As long as everyone tries to speak English, I think we're in a good space because we need to have a unifying language. But yeah, I believe that my travel has really, it's made me a happier person. I feel very content, that I have had the privilege and the opportunity to see as much of the world as I have. So that has shaped me as a person. It's made me into a more open-minded and accepting person. It's kind of removed that judgmental side, which is something which I think all of us need to deal with. That is not a good thing.
Right.
Human beings shouldn't be judgmental. So
Right.
yeah.
So like we've spoken about your books, your career, your HR professional facets. So anything you would like to add if I've missed asking you something and you would like to speak about?
No, Rashmi, I think you've covered everything. One thing I love doing, which maybe you're not aware of, is cooking. So I do a
Oh,
lot of that. Yeah, I love cooking.
so
And I do that also as a passion.
continental or Indian?
Everything. I enjoy everything. There are recipes from my grandmother's time, which she's passed on. I told her she passed away a few years back. So what she had done was before that, she had penned down a lot of those recipes in a diary, and I love drawing from those. She has this amazing recipe of nali mutton, which is something
Oh,
that we
that's
eat a lot at home.
yes.
And there are a couple of biryani recipes also, which she used to do very well. So all those things, I love doing that. Then I love continental also. I think Italian is definitely a favorite in my house. My son is mad about Italian food. So my first thought is always, what does my son like to eat? If it's something he enjoys, then I'm all for. If he doesn't eat it, then I would prefer not to cook it. It's as simple
Right.
as. But I like cooking.
Right. So, to wrap up, your views, your thoughts about writers who are coming up, the new writers, what advice would you like to share with them?
Yeah, like I said before, I think have faith in yourself. Be critical when it comes to your writing. Look at it more as an objective process because sometimes I think writers, because we're very close to what we've written, we don't always look at it objectively. So look at it objectively. Be your own worst critic. Critic yourself. Critique your writing as harshly as you can. Do everything you can to perfect your craft, and yes, get yourself a wonderful literary agent like Sohail. That I think is definitely on top of the list.
Definitely. So, what would you, I mean, your thoughts about your views about Zena family?
Yes, so I was just, it's quite strange because I think that you and I have some telepathy because I
Yeah.
was just going to say that I'm a new addition to this family now. Rajiva ji had he was kind enough to introduce me to the family recently, and I've been a part of the community for a few days now. You, of course, have had the pleasure of knowing we've become good friends, I think, over the course of 1 year or so we've known each other,
Yeah.
1.5 years, about 1.5 years.
2 years, 2 years.
2 years. So there's a lot of warmth, which I see here. There's a lot of community, the feeling of being a part of a family or a community. So I definitely see this growing, and I hope that I can be a part of that process and a part of that growth process, let's put it this way. I think it's a learning process again. There's so much that we can draw from each other. So I see amazing creativity within the individuals here. The group also on WhatsApp is quite active, and I've been going through the messages, and I think a very talented group of people. So my congratulations to Rajiva ji for forming this community, and to you for doing this. This is an amazing show. I think I have really enjoyed it.
Thank you. So with this, we'll wrap up, and all the best for your future book. I mean, I hope it comes out soon so that we can lay our hands on it. And wishing you all the best. And let's stay connected and hope we have another chat session as soon as your new book comes. Lovely having you on the
Absolutely.
show. Lovely having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you.
Thank you.